From the outside, my life gleamed like the chandelier above the marble staircase, a cascade of light and privilege. No one peering through the gilded gates of Briarwood Lane would have guessed that, beyond the clipped hedges and antique fountains, shadows gathered in the cracks. My name is Elara Vincent, and I was born into elegance, married into supremacy, and raised from girlhood to radiate perfection at every angle. My husband, Adrian Vincent, was the city's golden son, CEO, philanthropist, a man whose smile won over magazine covers and mayors alike. Together, we'd built a world of banquets and benefit balls, charity auctions and rooftop soirees. Even the neighbors envied us, their whispered admiration drifting over the white peonies like summer perfume. But even the most beautiful rooms can feel like cages, and sometimes the gleam of elegance hides the dull ache of emptiness. In stolen moments, when Adrian's phone lit with messages at midnight, or when talk of work trips outpaced evenings together, I felt a subtle fear, an asymmetry, the strange conviction that life was shifting beneath me. Yet I played my part, smiled at the right faces, nodded at the board meetings, my presence essential but ornamental. And among my orbit of friends, none circled closer than Marissa Wynne. Marissa, with her model's grace and knife-sharp wit, had always lingered in Adrian's world. Old college friend, almost family. She sparkled in our circles, loyal at every party and unmissable at every gala. It was a Tuesday, bland and promising as oatmeal, when the first tremor rippled beneath the surface. I came home early from a charity planning session, dropping my keys on the sun-warmed entry table, when I caught the sound of laughter down the hallway, the rare, carefree kind that once belonged to Adrian and me in our younger years. I turned the corner just as Marissa stepped out of Adrian's study, face flushed, her lipstick carefully reapplied. She gasped, fumbling her clutch. "Elara, I was just dropping off the invitations for the Wrights' winter ball. Adrian said you wanted me to—" Her excuse tangled and broke on my gaze. Adrian emerged, shirt sleeves rolled, a too-casual smile. "Love, Marissa was helping with the donors list. You know how hopeless I am with RSVP data." Somewhere deep inside, a thread snapped. That night, I called the Gala coordinator to confirm my menu choices for the upcoming prestigious Black and Gold Gala, the centerpiece of our season. I was met with confusion. "Oh, Mrs. Vincent, I thought Mr. Vincent and Ms. Wynne said you'd be traveling that week. The head table will be Adrian and Marissa. I'm so sorry if we misunderstood." My world tilted, the true betrayal hard as marble. I hung up, numb, and stared at my reflection in the antique mirror. Wasn't this always the risk, with beautiful lives built on beautiful lies? The invitations arrived in thick vellum envelopes, Adrian's signature crest intertwined with Marissa's initials. How clever, how galling. My name was not among the calligraphied list. It was as if I had been erased from my own life, replaced by a more glamorous echo. Beneath the veneer of civility at every board dinner and charity event, I felt eyes on me, assessing, speculating. Had they known? Was it my fault? Had I been too trusting, too loving, too intent on giving Adrian the freedom he claimed to need? I spent nights pacing the terrace, cataloging every sign I'd ignored. The celebratory champagne left untouched, the business trips that tangled across weekends, Marissa's sudden, constant presence. Let me help, Elara. You deserve to rest. The city's social news circuit flared with speculation. Rumors moved through drawing rooms and group chats, the Vincent drama promising a spectacular gala season. Betrayed in private, now humiliated in public. If Adrian and Marissa hoped I'd disappear, they were mistaken. That was the last night I wept for them. The days stretched on, each one harder than the last. Even as I moved through the routines of the privileged, the salon appointments, the lunch dates with women who pretended not to know, I felt myself changing. I was no longer content to be an ornament in Adrian's world, nor the shadow in Marissa's victory. In the silent hours before dawn, I ran my fingers over old photographs, analyzing the history of our marriage. How did I not see it coming? Regret morphed into anger, then something sharper, a glimmer of resolve. Adrian had built his empire with my unwavering support. The connections, the deals brokered over candlelit dinners, the patience while he risked fortunes. None of it would have been possible without me. And now he and Marissa had stolen not only my marriage, but my place at Briarwood's most celebrated event. If they wanted me out, they'd have to fight harder. I began to devise a plan. I shut the door to the world, spending evenings in the study, reading business journals Adrian never thought I'd understand. Between the lines of quarterly statements, beneath the polish of charitable press releases, I found weakness. Adrian's latest investment, an ambitious real estate syndicate, was overextended, a mountain of leverage balanced on risky financing. I contacted an old friend, Julian, a savvy broker ousted from Adrian's firm years ago but loyal to me. Together, we pored over market data, finding gaps and stress points. I learned about stocks, about hostile takeovers, about timing. But revenge isn't just about money. I wanted to reclaim my dignity, rewrite the humiliating story before the city's eyes. My therapist, Dr. Sloan, asked if I was ready for the consequences. "What will you feel when it's over?" she said, voice gentle. I told her I didn't want peace, yet. I wanted my story heard. Every piece fell into place. The legal documents, the invitations sent at the last minute, the unseen allies among staff and board members. I even found out about Adrian's vulnerabilities, his need to impress at the gala, the debts he hid from Marissa herself. The night before the gala, I looked in the mirror and saw someone new, steel beneath silk, intent smoldering in my eyes. The evening of the black and gold gala was cold, the city's skyline sharpened against an indigo sky. Briarwood's gardens glowed with strings of lights and the promise of spectacle. Inside, waiters in black ties circled with trays of gold-flecked champagne and caviar, guests sparkling in couture and polished old money. My invitation was never sent, but my arrival would not depend on their approval. I stepped from the driver's car in a gown of midnight velvet, unmistakable, regal. The media clustered at the entrance, drawn by rumors of Adrian's latest conquest and Marissa's debut as the new queen of his world. But as I walked up the marble steps, time seemed to slow. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Some faces widened in delighted shock, others darted away in embarrassed sympathy. My plan began not with drama, but with grace. "Mrs. Vincent," the head of the gala committee gasped, uncertain. "I'm right where I belong," I said, my voice clear and unwavering. The maitre d' led me to my old table, where Adrian and Marissa sat, he in a tailored tux, she in a gown she had copied from my last year's gala dress. Their smiles faded as I approached, appetites stalled. Photographers circled, hungry for a headline. Adrian started to speak, some rehearsed apology maybe, or a demand I leave. Instead, I greeted Marissa. "How strange to see you in my place." I let my gaze linger, not with envy, but with monumental pity that made her shrink in her seat. I nodded to Adrian, unflinching. "I see you're still trying to impress everyone. Let's see how far you can go tonight." Music rose above the tension. The night unfolded. The city's eyes glued themselves to my every move, the question unspoken. What had Elara come to do? I smiled, answering nothing, watching the clock as the hour for my reckoning approached. As midnight neared, anticipation electrified the ballroom. Crystal glasses flashed under chandeliers. The orchestra paused, awaiting the night's signature toast from the gala's hosts, Adrian and Marissa. Adrian rose, tapping his glass. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, smile taut. "Tonight marks a new chapter, not just for this city, but for me and for Marissa, whose partnership means more than words can say." I watched their practice spectacle, the crowd's admiration, the flash of Marissa's ring in the spotlights. And then I stood, uninvited but unstoppable. My voice echoed, calm, ringing out, "If I may." Sudden hush. All eyes, cameras, and whispered phone screens turned to me. I'd like to propose a toast, not to new beginnings, but to truths finally seeing the light. Adrian's face blanched. Marissa's hand tightened on his. I lifted my glass. There was a time I believed life offered happy endings to those who played by the rules. But sometimes, the greatest act of loyalty is refusing to be silent when wronged. Several board members were in attendance, men and women who'd cheered Adrian's business triumphs, never privy to their sources. That was about to change. I pulled the legal folder from my clutch. Ripples of shocked murmurs ran through the tables. "You see," I said, meeting Adrian's gaze, "some people build empires using the trust of others, not just emotionally, but financially." I outlined with calm finality Adrian's leveraged investments, his secret loans, the debt Marissa had never known she inherited, backed with documents for any reporter or investor who cared to see. Cameras caught every word. "And since tonight is about integrity and charity," I continued, "I'm proud to announce the transfer of my shares, once gifted to Adrian, from Vincent Holdings to the Young Women's Empowerment Fund." A cheer from the far table, gasps at others. Adrian, speechless, lunged to intervene, but was surrounded by guests, his support melting into accusations and self-protection. Marissa tried to reach for me, her voice pleading, but I leveled her with a look that needed no words. The crowd erupted. Reporters pressed in. Marissa's star was tarnished before it truly rose. Adrian's reputation, the company, and his future crumbling in public. I drained my glass and left it on their table. As I walked through the doors and into the crisp night, the city's eyes followed. The woman who refused to disappear, who turned humiliation into power before the entire world. The cold night air felt different when I stepped outside the Gala. Sharp, alive. The thrum of the city was no longer an echo of loneliness, but a promise of something new. The finality of what I'd done rang in my bones, but so did a calm I hadn't known in years. In the days that followed, scandal unfolded like a slow explosion. Adrian's financial misdeeds headlined every business journal. Investors demanded his resignation. The board met, without him. Marissa tried to salvage her social standing, but found herself ostracized by the very circles she'd worked so hard to infiltrate. Invitations dried up. The city's gossip reigned. As for me, I found myself at the center of a different narrative, not victim, not jilted wife, but a symbol of reinvention. Major networks requested interviews. The Young Women's Empowerment Fund, suddenly flush with new capital, launched programs I guided from behind the scenes, mentoring girls to never abdicate their own power. For the first time in years, I slept in. No anxiety pangs, no dread of being left behind. I filled my home not with parties for others, but with friends who had never cared about my last name or my husband's position. I spent time learning, painting, traveling, relearning how to choose for myself. When the pain of betrayal surfaced, and it did, on quiet mornings and rainy afternoons, I let it remind me I had been broken, not destroyed, transformed, not erased. On the anniversary of that dreadful invitation, I stood at the edge of the city, sunrise gilding the river. I thought about everything lost, and how little it mattered compared to what I'd reclaimed. Because in the end, self-worth doesn't gleam like crystal under chandeliers. It glows quietly, a light no one else can steal. And in that golden dawn, I smiled, truly, freely, for the first time in years.